Hello everyone. Today I read this sentence. Fighting to avoid while learning English.
5 things to avoid while learning English. 5 things to avoid while learning English.
Fighting things to avoid while learning English. Fighting to avoid while learning English.
Welcome everyone. I am Niharika.
Welcome everyone. I am Harikana. Welcome.
Welcome everyone. I am Niharika.
Welcome everyone. I am Harina. Welcome everyone. I am Howie. Welcome everyone. I am Howie. Welcome everyone. I am Howie.
Welcome everyone. I am Niharika.
Welcome everyone. I am Howie.
And in today's lesson, we are going to look at some things to avoid by learning English.
And today's lesson, we are going to look at something to avoid while learning English. And today's lesson, we are going to look at something to avoid learning English. And today look at in today's lesson and in today's lesson we are going to look at something to avoid while learning English. And in today's lesson, we are going to look at something to avoid while learning English. And in
today's lesson, we are going to look at some things to avoid while learning English.
And in today's lesson, we are going to look at some things to avoid while learning English. And in today's lesson, we are going to look at something to avoid while learning English. And in today's lesson, we are going to look at something to avoid while learning English. And in today's lesson, we are going to look at some things to avoid while learning English. And in today's
lesson, we are going to look at some things to avoid by learning English.
And in today's lesson, we are going to look at something to avoid while learning English. And in today's lesson, we are going to look at something to avoid while learning English. Now Now I have observed many is learning.
Now, I have observed many English learners.
Now I have observed many learning.
Now, I have observed many English learners do certain things that kind of hurt their progress. Now, I have observed many English learners do certain things that kind of hurt their progress.
Progress. Now I have also many English learners do something that kind of hurts their progress. Now I have observed. Now I have observed many English learners do something that kind of hurts their progress. Now I have observed many English learners do something that kind of hurts their progress. Now I have observed many English learn do something that kind of hurts their progressive, 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 progressive,
Progressive.
progressive,
Progressive.
progress,
Progressive.
progress, 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 progresses, progresses. Now I have observed, observed,
Observed.
observed,
Observed.
observed. Now I have observed many English learn to resolve sentences that kind of help their progress. Progresses.
Well, in this lesson, we're going to Now, I have observed many English learners do sort of things that kind of hurt their progressive.
Do something. Now I have observed many English learners do something. Do something that kind to help their progress. Progress. Progresses. Now I have observed many English learners to do something that kind of helps their progress. Now I have also many learn to do something that kind of hurts their progress.
Well, in this lesson, we're going to look at some points that you really need to avoid if you want to be fluent in English.
Well, is listen to one now. Look at some points that you really need to avoid if you want to be fluent in English. Well, in listening, you want us look at some point. Look at some point. Well, in in this lesson, you're gonna look at some points that you really need to avoid if you wanna be fluent in English. Well, in this lesson, you're gonna look at some points that you really need to avoid if you wanna be fluent in English. Fluent in English. Well, in this lesson, you're gonna look at some points that you really need to avoid if you wanna be fluent in English. Well,
In this lesson, you're gonna look at some points that you really need to avoid if you wanna be fluent in English.
well, in this, you're gonna look at some points that you really need to avoid if you wanna be fluent in English.
Oh, 1. Don't be ashamed to speak up.
1. Don't assist speaker. Don't be assist to speaker. Don't be obsessed to speaker. Obsessed. Obsessed.
Ashamed.
Obsessed. 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 Don't be absent to speak up. Don't be absent to speak up.
The very first thing, don't be ashamed to speak up. Well, that's what happens.
So very first thing, don't be ashamed to speak up. So very first thing, don't be ashamed to speak up. So very first thing,
The very first thing, don't be ashamed to speak up.
ashamed to speak up. So very first thing, don't be ashamed to speak up. So very first thing, don't be ashamed to speak up. So very first thing, don't be ashamed to speak up. So very first thing, don't be ashamed to speak up. So very first thing, don't be ashamed to speak up. So very first thing, don't be ashamed to speak up. So very first thing, don't be ashamed to speak up.
Well, that's what happens. You know, many of my English students.
Well, that's what happened. You know, many of my English students. Well, that what happened. You know, many of my English students. Well, that happened. Well, that what happened. You know, many of my English students. Well, that what happened. You know, many of my English students. Well, that's what happens. You know, many of my students. Well, that's what happened. You know, many of
Well,
my.
that's what happens. You know, many of my English students.
Well, what's happened? You know, many my English students. My English students. Well, what happened? You know, well, that what happened to now many of my English students. Well, that's what happened. You know, many of my students. Well, that's what happened. You know, many of my students. Well, that's what happened. You know, many of my students. Well, that happened. You know, many of my English students. Well, the first thing.
Well, the first thing that comes out of their mouth.
Well, the first thing that comes out of their mouth.
Well, the first thing that comes out of their mouth is
Well, the first thing that comes out of their mouth. Comes out of their mouth. Well, the first thing comes out of their mouth. Comes out south of south of sounds out of their mouth.
I'm too embarrassed. I'm too shy.
Well, the first thing that comes out of their mouth.
Well, the first thing
Well, the first thing
Bout.
far
that
comes out of
comes
their
out of their
mouth.
mouth is I'm too embarrassed. I'm too shy.
Well, the first thing that comes out of their mouth.
I'm too embarrassed.
I'm too embarrassed. I'm too
embarrassed.
shy.
I'm too embarrassed. I'm too sad. I'm too embarrassed. I'm too sad. Sad. I'm too embarrassed. I'm too sad.
Shy.
Sad. Sad. I'm too embarrassed. I'm too sad.
Embarrassed.
Embarrassed. Embarrassed. Embarrassed. I'm too embarrassed. I'm too sad. 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 Embarrassed. I'm too sad. I'm too embarrassed. I'm too sad.
I'm too shy.
I'm too
Too
sad.
shy. Well, if you say this, that's it. You are not going to learn to speak confidently. If you are ashamed, too shy.
Embarrassed. I'm too sad.
Too shy. Well, if you say this, that's it. You are not going to learn to speak confidently.
Vâng, nhé. If you say this, that you are not going to learn to speak confidently.
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 Confidently. Confidently. Confidently. Confidently. Confidently. Well, if you say this, that is you are not going to learn to speak confidently.
If you are ashamed of speaking in English, what's the point? How are you going to achieve? Too shy. Well, if you say this, that's it. You are not going to learn to speak confidently. too shy. Well, if you say this, that's it. You are not going to learn to speak confidently.
Well, if you say this, that is, you're not going to learn to speak confidently. Confidently. Well, if you say this, that's it, you are not going to learn to speak confidently. Well, if you say this, that's it, you are not going to learn to speak confidently. If you say this, that's it, you are not going to learn to speak confidently. Well, if you say this, that's it, you are not going to learn to speak confidently.
If you are ashamed of speaking in English, what's the point?
If you are upset to all speak English, what's the point?
If you are ashamed to all speaking in English, what's the point?
Is you upset?
If you are ashamed to all speaking in English, what's the point?
If you are ashamed to speak English, what's the point? If you are ashamed to speak English, what's the point? If you are ashamed to speak English, what's the point? If you are ashamed to speak English, what's the point? If you are ashamed to speak English, what's the point? If you are ashamed to speak English, what's the point? If you are ashamed to speak English, what's the point? If you are ashamed to speak English, what's the point? If you are ashamed to speak English, what's the point? If you are ashamed to speak English, what's the point? How are you? Can you adjust your love?
How are you going to achieve your goal?
How are you? How are you? Can achieve?
So, no.
How are you?
How are you going to achieve your goal? So, no worries if you.
How
are you going to
achieve your goal?
your goal?
No worry, you are not great.
So, no worries if you are not great in your vocabulary.
So no worry, you are not great in your vocabulary. So no worry, you are not great in your vocabulary. No worry if you are not great in your vocabulary. Then I sit here and here. See you tomorrow. Continue.